The holographic star map flickered in the dim chamber of Meridian 7, casting blue light across the faces of 47 different species. Ambassador Raylan shifted his weight, his three-jointed legs clicking softly against the polished floor. He had called this emergency session, though he wasn't entirely sure it qualified as an emergency yet. The humans had been part of the Galactic Council for 3 years now, and mostly they kept quiet, paid their dues, and patrolled their assigned sector without complaint. Driss leaned forward from his seat, his bulbous eyes rotating independently to scan the assembly. This seems unnecessary, Raylan. The humans follow every regulation. What concern could there possibly be? Raylan touched the control panel, bringing up footage from 6 months prior. I want to review the Bergen's Hope incident, for the record. Several council members groaned. They had seen this before, but Raylan played it anyway. The recording showed a human colony world, small and unremarkable, with 2 million inhabitants scattered across 3 continents. Then came the Razorback clans, 400 pirate vessels descending like locusts. The colonists had 14 hours of warning, barely enough time to reach shelters. Defensive satellites exploded in brilliant flashes as the first wave hit. Then the human First Fleet arrived. 200 vessels dropped from slip space in perfect geometric formation. What happened next still made Raylan's skin crawl beneath his scales. The human ships moved with precision that seemed impossible for separate vessels. Their weapons fired in synchronized waves, each shot calculated to overwhelm pirate defenses at exact moments of vulnerability. Electronic countermeasures blanked out communications across the entire pirate fleet simultaneously. 40 minutes, that's how long the battle lasted. 130 pirate ships reduced to debris. The rest fled in panic, including the infamous warlord Kren, whose flagship barely made it to slip space with half its hull missing. Human casualties, 0. The recording ended. Silence filled the chamber. They complied with regulations, Raylan said carefully. 1 fleet, 200 ships, standard armaments listed in their registry, everything legal. So what troubles you? Driss asked, though his tone had shifted slightly. The efficiency troubles me, Raylan admitted. The coordination. The Razorback clans have terrorized outer sectors for 20 years. Multiple species have engaged them. All failed to achieve decisive victory. The humans destroyed them in less than an hour. Counselor Hallam, the military advisor, activated his own display. I've reviewed their fleet composition extensively. Nothing exceptional. Railguns, missiles, standard energy shields. Their technology matches our own, perhaps slightly behind in some areas. Then how? Raylan pressed. Training, Hallam suggested. Discipline. Perhaps their species has natural aptitude for tactical coordination. Or perhaps we don't know everything about them, Raylan said quietly. Driss made a dismissive gesture. They defeated pirates. This makes them competent, not exceptional. I see no reason for concern. The vote was called. 31 species agreed the humans required no additional scrutiny. 16 abstained. 0 voted for enhanced monitoring. Raylan accepted the decision, though unease still gnawed at him. Something about the humans didn't fit. They had arrived 3 years ago in a single exploration vessel, the Pathfinder, crewed by scientists and diplomats. Friendly, curious, eager to learn. They passed every evaluation, answered every question, opened their home system for inspection. Earth seemed ordinary. 1 yellow star, 8 planets, various colonies scattered through their local region. They had been traveling space for 2 centuries, they said, but never ventured far from home. Content to explore slowly, to build carefully. The Council granted them provisional membership. They were assigned Sector 9, a quiet region near the rim where nothing important ever happened. Border patrol duties, occasional pirate problems, routine maintenance of navigation beacons. The humans accepted with gratitude. 3 years passed. They were model citizens, quiet, helpful, unremarkable. Until Bergen's hope. Raylan returned to his private quarters after the session, pulling up every file the Council possessed on humanity. Something nagged at him, some detail he kept missing. Their fleet registry listed First Fleet clearly, 200 vessels, but the document also contained a footnote, barely noticeable: Primary Military Response Force. Primary. That implied others existed. Raylan brought up Earth's initial membership application. Page 47, buried in technical specifications, mentioned naval organizational structure, but provided no details beyond First Fleet's composition. He tried accessing deeper records, but human systems were polite walls of bureaucracy. Every question answered precisely, never volunteering extra information. Raylan drafted a message to the human embassy, requesting clarification on naval structure. The response came within an hour. Ambassador Okoye herself replied, friendly and professional. First Fleet represents Earth's military presence in Council space, as per Armada Accord's requirements. Additional organizational details are internal administrative matters. Is there a specific concern? Perfectly reasonable, perfectly evasive. Raylan deleted the exchange and tried to forget his suspicions. 2 months later, everything changed. The first colony went dark without warning. 70,000 people simply gone. No distress call, no debris field, nothing. Council investigators found the planet scoured clean, atmosphere intact, but every structure reduced to slag. 3 days later, another colony disappeared, then 2 more. Ancient historical records provided the answer. The Dominion front had returned. Council intelligence briefed the assembly in hushed, frightened tones. The Dominion had been the galaxy's nightmare 300 years ago, an empire built on conquest and subjugation. They possessed 15 full fleets and technology that surpassed anything the Council fielded. Only their sudden retreat into unknown space had saved the galaxy. Now they were back, and they had spent 3 centuries becoming stronger. Supreme Commander Voreth's message broadcast across every Council channel. You have grown soft. Your Armada Accords make you weak. We will reclaim what is rightfully ours. The Council scrambled to respond, but the Armada Accords that had maintained peace for generations now became chains. Each species could field only 1 fleet. Combined operations required endless negotiations between different technologies, command structures, languages. While politicians debated, the Dominion advanced. Raylan watched the Council tear itself apart over procedure and protocol. Some species wanted to abandon the Accords entirely. Others feared the chaos that would follow. Military advisors argued over fleet compositions and resource allocations. Ambassador Okoye sat through every session, silent and watchful. After 6 days of fruitless debate, as the Dominion captured their 8th system, she finally stood. The Council is welcome to continue discussions, she said, her voice cutting through the noise. Earth will act. Raylan felt his heart accelerate. What do you mean? Okoye smiled, though it didn't reach her eyes. We're deploying additional defensive forces to threaten sectors. Driss rose angrily. You have 1 fleet. What difference could that possibly make? We're not deploying 1 fleet, Okoye replied calmly. We're deploying 11. The chamber exploded into chaos. Voices collided in the Council chamber like competing thunderstorms. Species that rarely agreed on anything suddenly united in their confusion and outrage. Raylan gripped the edge of his console, trying to process what Ambassador Okoye had just announced. 11 fleets. The humans had 11 fleets. Driss was shouting, his translator struggling to keep pace with his fury. This violates the Armada Accords. 1 fleet per species, 1. Okoye remained standing, perfectly calm while chaos swirled around her. She waited, hands folded behind her back, until the noise began to subside. When she spoke, Her voice carried clearly without being raised. The Armada Accords specify that each species may maintain one military fleet for operations in Council space. Earth complies fully with this requirement. First Fleet is our designated military response force. Then what are the other 10? Hallam demanded. Akoi activated her own holographic display. A complex organizational chart appeared, showing Earth's naval structure in detail. Second Fleet handles planetary defense. Third Fleet protects colonial holdings. Fourth Fleet secures trade routes. Fifth Fleet conducts deep space exploration and survey operations. Sixth Fleet serves as rapid deployment for emergencies. Seventh Fleet supports scientific research. Eighth Fleet manages resource and supply operations. Ninth Fleet remains in strategic reserve. 10th Fleet develops and tests advanced weapons systems. 11th Fleet handles training and evaluation. She let that information settle before continuing. By Earth's administrative classifications, only First Fleet qualifies as military in the traditional sense. The others serve civilian support, scientific, logistical, or defensive purposes. Raylan felt his mind racing, trying to find the flaw in her logic. But they're all armed. Of course, Akoi replied. Space is dangerous. Pirates, rogue asteroids, equipment failures, unknown threats. Every vessel operating beyond planetary orbit requires defensive capabilities. Surely your own civilian ships carry weapons. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. She was right. The distinction between military and civilian vessels had always been blurry in practice. How many ships? Raylan asked quietly. Akoi met his gaze. Fleet sizes vary by mission requirements, between 300 and 500 vessels per fleet, depending on operational scope. The mathematics hit like a physical blow. 11 fleets, approximately 4,000 vessels. Earth possessed a navy 20 times larger than any single council species, and they had been hiding it for 3 years. You deceived us. Driss was back on his feet. You registered one fleet and concealed the rest. We registered our military fleet as required, Akoi corrected. We answered every question asked during our application process. If the council wanted information about our complete naval structure, that question should have been posed. It wasn't. Hallam pulled up the original membership documents, scanning frantically. His expression darkened. She's correct. We asked about military forces. They provided detailed information about First Fleet. We never inquired about other operational categories. This is semantics, Driss protested. This is bureaucracy, Akoi replied. Something the council usually excels at. We've maintained our navy for 200 years. Did you expect us to dismantle centuries of infrastructure to satisfy paperwork requirements? We complied with your regulations exactly as written. Raylan wanted to argue, but she was right. The humans had exploited a loophole, but they hadn't technically lied. The council had made assumptions based on incomplete data. The Dominion is burning our colonies, Akoi said, her tone hardening. They've killed hundreds of thousands in 2 weeks. They're advancing on major population centers. Would the council prefer to debate definitions and semantics, or would you prefer to save lives? Silence fell. The truth sat heavy in the chamber. The Dominion fleet currently heading toward Talus Colony numbered 850 vessels. The council had managed to assemble 1,100 ships from 20 different species, but coordination remained a disaster. Different weapons systems, incompatible communications, conflicting tactical doctrines. The battle would be a slaughter. Unless the humans intervened. How quickly can your fleets deploy? Hallam asked, his anger fatting into pragmatic calculation. Second, third, fourth, and fifth fleets can reach threatened sectors within 48 hours, Akoi replied. Sixth, seventh, and eighth can follow within 72. Ninth, 10th, and 11th require longer preparation times due to their specialized roles. and they're all combat capable. Every human vessel is built to defend itself and others. Yes. The vote was called. Some species argued this set dangerous precedent. Others insisted humanity had betrayed Council trust, but 31 species voted to accept human assistance. 16 abstained, unwilling to approve but equally unwilling to refuse help while their colonies burned. 0 voted against. Ambassador Akoy thanked the Council politely and left to make arrangements. Raylan remained in his seat long after the chamber emptied, staring at the organizational chart still hovering in the air. 4,000 ships. The humans had integrated into Council society with 4,000 warships at their disposal, and nobody had noticed. He accessed the battle footage from Bergen's Hope again, watching with new understanding. 200 ships had decimated 400 pirate vessels in 40 minutes. That was 5% of humanity's total naval strength. 5%. What could they do with all 11 fleets operating together? 3 days later, the Dominion attacked Talos Colony. Supreme Commander Vorath led the assault personally, commanding 2,400 vessels in the largest fleet operation the Dominion had attempted since their return. Talos was home to 50 million Halloran citizens, a major industrial center, a symbol of Council strength. Its fall would break galactic morale completely. Council forces gathered in desperate defense, 1,100 ships from 20 species forming chaotic formations around the planet. Commanders argued over tactics until the last moment, then settled into uneasy positions that left gaps in coverage. Vorath's fleet emerged from slipspace in overwhelming numbers. His ships spread across the system like a tidal wave, energy weapons already charging. They're outmatched 3-2, his tactical officer reported. Victory is certain. Vorath opened communications channels, broadcasting to both Council forces and the planet below. You cannot win. Surrender Talos Colony and we will spare the population. Resist and we will reduce your world to ash. The Council fleet held position, though Vorath could see their formations wavering. Then his sensors detected slipspace ruptures. Dozens at first, then hundreds, then thousands. 4 human fleets materialized in perfect geometric formation, 1,600 vessels arranged with mathematical precision. Second fleet took high orbit. Third fleet secured the equatorial band. Fourth fleet established outer system perimeter. Fifth fleet positioned for rapid intercept. Vorath felt his confidence crack. How many ships do they have? More slipspace ruptures bloomed across his displays. 3 additional human fleets arrived, 1,300 more vessels sliding into coordinated positions. His tactical officer's voice shook. Commander, the humans outnumber our total forces. We're now facing 2,900 enemy vessels. Vorath stared at the tactical display, watching human ships move with the kind of coordination that shouldn't be possible across such numbers. They weren't fighting as individual vessels or even separate fleets. They were operating as a single unified intelligence. For the first time in 300 years, the Dominion faced an opponent that made them look weak. Admiral Chen's voice cut across all frequencies, calm and absolute. Dominion vessels, you are in violation of Council space. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. Vorath's hands trembled over the controls as he tried to find a response that wouldn't sound like surrender. Vorath had conquered 47 worlds during the Dominion's first expansion. He had commanded fleets that reduced entire civilizations to radioactive dust. Fear was something he inflicted on others, not something he experienced himself. Until now. The human formations surrounded his fleet like the fingers of a closing fist. Every vessel maintained exact spacing, their movements synchronized down to the microsecond. His tactical displays showed overlapping fields of fire that left no gaps, no weaknesses to exploit. "They're bluffing," Voreth said, forcing confidence into his voice. "We still outnumber them." His tactical officer checked the numbers again, mandibles clicking nervously. "Negative, Commander. Their 7 fleets total 2,900 vessels. Combined with Council forces, they have 3,000 ships to our 2,400. Voreth slammed his appendage against the console. "Then we'll break through their formations. Full assault, all batteries." The Dominion fleet surged forward, energy weapons blazing. Missile salvos launched in waves designed to overwhelm defensive systems through sheer volume. It was the same tactic that had worked for 3 centuries, the unstoppable hammer that crushed resistance through raw firepower. The humans didn't retreat. They didn't even appear concerned. Human point defense systems came online across all 2,900 vessels simultaneously. Laser grids created interlocking networks of destruction, each ship's defensive fire coordinated with its neighbors to eliminate overlapping coverage. 94% of Dominion missiles detonated before reaching their targets. The remaining 6% hit shields that had been reinforced at the exact moment of impact. "How are they doing that?" Voreth's tactical officer demanded. "The calculations required the coordination. It's impossible." But it wasn't impossible, it was happening. Human railguns opened fire, and Voreth finally understood what real precision looked like. Each shot was calculated based on target trajectory, defensive capabilities, shield frequencies, and dozens of other variables. The humans weren't aiming where targets were. They were aiming where targets would be in the 3 seconds it took projectiles to cross the distance. Dominion shields collapsed under impacts that hit weak points with surgical accuracy. Hulls ruptured. Ships vented atmosphere. Within the first 5 minutes, 80 Dominion vessels simply ceased to exist. "Electronic warfare," Voreth ordered. "Blind their sensors." The Dominion had spent 3 centuries perfecting electronic countermeasures. Their systems could hack enemy networks, scramble communications, disable targeting computers. They unleashed everything simultaneously. The human fleets didn't even flicker. Instead, Voreth's own displays went dark. Communications across the Dominion fleet dissolved into static. Weapon targeting systems locked up, showing error messages in languages the Dominion didn't recognize. Half his fleet was suddenly flying blind, unable to coordinate with the other half. "They've infiltrated our networks," someone shouted. "They're inside our systems." Voreth tried to reestablish control, but every command he issued was countered before it could execute. The humans had turned his own fleet into a liability, ships colliding with each other as they lost navigational data. Admiral Chen's voice cut through the chaos, transmitted on channels the Dominion couldn't block. "You're outmatched, Voreth. Withdraw your forces while you still can." Pride warred with survival instinct. Voreth had never retreated from any battle. The Dominion didn't surrender. They conquered or they died trying. But his tactical displays were showing casualty rates that made his combat experience irrelevant. 300 ships destroyed in 20 minutes. Another 200 crippled beyond combat effectiveness. The humans had barely taken damage. Council forces hadn't even needed to engage. They held position, watching the humans dismantle the Dominion fleet with mechanical efficiency. Voreth made the hardest decision of his military career. "All ships, retreat to Rally Point 7. Emergency slip space jumps on my mark." His surviving vessels turned away from Talos Colony, drives burning at maximum as they desperately created distance. The humans didn't pursue. They simply held their positions, maintaining perfect formations around the planet. As Voreth's flagship jumped to slip space, his last sensor reading showed human vessels already beginning damage assessment and debris cleanup. They were treating this like a minor training exercise, not a battle that had cost the Dominion 800 ships. Back on Meridian 7, The council watched the battle's conclusion in stunned silence. Raylan had been monitoring the engagement from the beginning, his analytical mind trying to process what he was seeing. The humans had deployed 7 fleets containing 2,900 vessels. They had destroyed or disabled nearly a third of the attacking Dominion force in under 2 hours. Their own casualties numbered exactly 12 ships damaged, 0 destroyed. The efficiency was terrifying. Ambassador Akoi entered the observation chamber, her expression neutral. Talos colony is secure. We'll maintain defensive posture until Council forces can assume protection duties. Where did they go? Driss asked, his earlier hostility replaced by something resembling awe. The Dominion retreated to their core systems, Akoi replied. Our intelligence suggests they're regrouping, reassessing their strategy. Hallam leaned forward, studying tactical readouts. Your ships barely took damage. Your coordination was perfect. I've commanded fleets for 40 years and I've never seen anything like that. Every human vessel is networked through quantum communication systems, Akoi explained. 0 lag between ships, instant tactical updates, coordinated responses across thousands of vessels as if they were a single entity. We've spent 2 centuries developing this technology. And you never mentioned it, Raylan said quietly. Akoi met his gaze. You never asked. You saw 1 fleet and assumed you understood our capabilities. The Dominion made the same mistake. Silence settled over the chamber. The implications were sinking in. Humanity possessed military technology and coordination capabilities beyond anything the Council had imagined. They had been operating among the galactic community for 3 years, seemingly average, while hiding the largest naval force in known space. What happens now? Driss asked, his voice careful. Now, Akoi settled into a chair, finally showing signs of fatigue. Now we wait to see if the Dominion is smart enough to accept peace, or foolish enough to try again. And if they try again? Akoi's smile was cold. We've deployed 7 fleets, 4 more remain in reserve. The Dominion has seen less than 70% of our full strength. Raylan felt his scales tingle with a mixture of fear and relief. Fear because humanity could crush any Council species if they chose. Relief because humans appeared content to defend rather than conquer. I need to ask, Raylan said. Why didn't you tell us? Why keep your true strength hidden? Akoi considered the question carefully. Would you have accepted us as equals if you knew we could destroy you? Or would you have seen us as a threat, united against us before we could integrate? No one answered. They all knew the truth. We wanted peace, Akoi continued. We wanted to join this community as partners, not conquerors. Showing our full strength would have prevented that. So we showed you 1 fleet, complied with regulations, and waited to see if you were people worth protecting. And now, Hallam asked. Now you know what humanity is capable of. Now you get to decide what kind of relationship we have going forward. We can be your defenders, your partners, your allies. We'd prefer that. The unspoken alternative hung in the air. They could also be something else entirely if the Council made the wrong choice. Raylan pulled up the current deployment status. 7 human fleets were holding positions around Talos colony and other threatened systems. 4 more fleets remained in human space, ready to deploy if needed. 11 fleets, 4,000 vessels, 200 years of preparation. The humans had been ready for this moment all along. 3 weeks after the Battle of Talos Colony, Supreme Commander Voreth sat in his command center, reviewing casualty reports he could barely comprehend. 817 ships destroyed, 412 damaged beyond economical repair, 231 with critical systems offline requiring extensive reconstruction. His 15 fleets had been reduced to an effective strength of roughly 11 fleets in a single engagement, against an enemy intelligence had assured him was weak. His chief analyst stood before him, posture rigid with fear. The analyst had been the one who prepared the pre-war assessment of human capabilities, the one who had confidently stated humans possessed only 200 vessels with unremarkable technology. "Explain," Voreth said, his voice dangerously quiet. The analyst's translator trembled. "Our intelligence gathering focused on their registered military fleet. First Fleet, 200 ships, standard armaments, nothing exceptional. These facts were verified. They deployed 11 fleets. How did we miss 10? They classified them differently," the analyst explained desperately. "Administrative categories, defensive forces, scientific support, colonial protection. By their organizational structure, only First Fleet qualified as military." Voreth resisted the urge to execute the analyst on the spot. "So, we attacked based on their paperwork definitions rather than their actual capabilities. The Galactic Council accepted their classifications. Our intelligence assumed the Council had verified." "Assumptions." Voreth slammed his appendages against the console. "We built our entire invasion strategy on assumptions. 4,000 human vessels were operating in known space and nobody noticed." The analyst had no answer. Voreth pulled up the battle recordings again, forcing himself to watch. The human coordination still made his combat instincts scream warnings. Ships moving as one organism across thousands of individual vessels. Targeting solutions calculated with perfect accuracy. Electronic warfare that penetrated Dominion systems like they weren't protected at all. Analysis of their quantum communication networks, Voreth demanded. "Beyond our current technology," a new voice answered. Technical Director Hassim entered the command center, carrying data tablets. "They've achieved zero-lag coordination across unlimited vessels. Each ship receives real-time tactical updates from every other ship simultaneously. It's not just communication, it's complete tactical integration." "Can we counter it?" "Not with our existing technology. We'd need decades of research to even understand the principles involved." Voreth felt the weight of 3 centuries of preparation crumbling. The Dominion had returned to the galaxy expecting easy conquest over species that had grown soft during peacetime. Instead, they had encountered an opponent that made the Dominion look primitive. "What are our options?" Voreth asked. Hassim hesitated before answering. "The humans have deployed 7 fleets to protect Council territory. 4 fleets remain in their home space. If we commit our full remaining strength, we might achieve victory through overwhelming numbers." "Might." "The probability calculations are unfavorable. They destroyed 34% of our forces at Talus with only marginal damage to their own fleet. If we engage their full strength, we risk losing everything." Voreth studied the tactical projections. Even if the Dominion won, casualties would be catastrophic, and that assumed the humans didn't have additional capabilities they hadn't revealed yet. "Recommendation?" Voreth asked, already knowing the answer. "Sue for peace," Hassim said bluntly. "Accept territorial losses, rebuild, research, return in another 3 centuries if we must." Pride demanded Voreth refuse. The Dominion didn't surrender. They were the conquerors, the unstoppable force that had broken empires. But pride didn't resurrect destroyed fleets. "Draft a peace proposal," Voreth ordered. "Offer to withdraw from all captured systems. Request non-aggression treaty. See what terms they demand." The analyst looked shocked. "Commander, our people will see this as—" "Our people will see this as wisdom," Voreth interrupted. "We underestimated the humans. We paid the price. Now we survive to learn from the mistake." The council chamber felt different now. Raylan noticed it immediately. The casual dismissiveness toward Ambassador Okoye had vanished, replaced by careful respect that bordered on nervousness. Species that had ignored human opinions 3 weeks ago now listened intently to every word she spoke. Fear did that, or perhaps respect. The line between them had become blurry. The Dominion has transmitted a peace proposal, Akoi announced, displaying the document for all to see. They offer complete withdrawal from all captured systems, return of any surviving prisoners, and a non-aggression treaty spanning 50 years. Driss examined the terms suspiciously. What do they want in return? Guaranteed safe passage back to their core territories. No pursuit, no retaliation. They keep their current borders but expand no further. Raylan considered this carefully. And if we refuse? Then the war continues, Akoi replied. Our intelligence suggests the Dominion is prepared to commit their remaining fleets in a final assault. It would be costly for everyone involved. But you would win, Hallam stated. It wasn't a question. Probably, Akoi admitted. But winning isn't always the objective. Peace is preferable to continued bloodshed. The council debated for hours. Some species wanted revenge for lost colonies. Others feared that accepting peace would embolden the Dominion to try again in the future. A few suggested demanding reparations, territorial concessions, technology transfers. Akoi listened patiently, then spoke. Earth supports accepting their proposal. The Dominion has learned their lesson. They know what happens when they threaten innocent populations under human protection. That knowledge is more valuable than any reparations we could demand. You trust them to honor the treaty? Driss asked skeptically. No, Akoi said bluntly. But we don't need to trust them. They've seen 7 of our 11 fleets. They know we have 4 more in reserve. They've calculated the odds and realized continued aggression leads to their destruction. Self-interest is more reliable than trust. The vote was close, but ultimately passed. The Council accepted the Dominion peace proposal with minor modifications regarding prisoner exchange and border monitoring. 3 days later, Dominion forces began withdrawing from captured territories. They moved quickly, efficiently, clearly eager to put distance between themselves and potential human response. Voreth transmitted a final message before his flagship left Council space. You won this confrontation. Savor the victory. But remember that the galaxy is vast and circumstances change. Perhaps we'll meet again under different conditions. Akoi watched the message with Admiral Chen standing beside her. Sounds like a threat, Chen observed. Sounds like a politician trying to save face, Akoi corrected. He knows they can't challenge us. Not now, probably not for centuries. Should we be worried about the long term? Akoi smiled. In 3 centuries, humanity will have developed technologies that make our current capabilities look primitive. If the Dominion wants to try again that far in the future, they're welcome to make the same mistake twice. Chen chuckled. Think the Council will ever trust us completely? No, Akoi admitted, but trust isn't required, respect is enough. Raylan approached them cautiously, his diplomatic training warring with genuine curiosity. May I ask a question, Ambassador? Of course. The 4 fleets you kept in reserve, were they truly needed for defensive purposes, or were you sending a message? Akoi's expression revealed nothing. What do you think? I think you wanted the Dominion to know you hadn't used your full strength. I think you wanted them to understand they faced only a portion of human capabilities. And what message does that send? That attacking humanity is suicide, that you always hold reserves, that you're never truly vulnerable. Akoi nodded slowly. The best victories are the ones you achieve without fighting. The Dominion will tell stories about Talos Colony for generations. They'll remember that humans defeated them while holding 4 fleets back. That memory will prevent more wars than any battle ever could. Raylan felt his understanding shift. The humans weren't just militarily superior. They were strategically brilliant. They had revealed enough strength to terrify potential enemies while concealing enough to maintain uncertainty. Nobody would ever know humanity's true full capabilities because there would always be doubt about what remained hidden. Will you ever tell us the truth? Raylan asked quietly. "About your complete military strength." Akoy smiled. "We've told you the truth. 11 fleets, 4,000 vessels, everything documented and verified." "But is that everything?" Ambassador Akoy's smile widened slightly. "Why would we possibly need more than that?" She left before Raylan could press further, leaving him with a question that would haunt the Council for years. What else were the humans hiding? 6 months after the Dominion withdrawal, the Galactic Council convened for a session that had been delayed, debated, and dreaded by nearly every member species. The topic: reforming the Armada Accords. The chamber held a tension that felt almost physical. Raylan watched species representatives arrive, their postures reflecting the delicate balance between gratitude and fear. Humanity had saved the galaxy from the Dominion threat. Humanity had also revealed military capabilities that dwarfed anything the Council could match. Driss took his position with unusual humility. The Halloran Counselor had been among humanity's loudest critics before Talos Colony. Watching human fleets defend his homeworld had apparently adjusted his perspective. Ambassador Akoy entered last, accompanied by Admiral Chen and Admiral Hayes. Their presence sent ripples of whispered conversation through the assembled delegates. "We must address the elephant in the room," Counselor Tessick began, using a human idiom that had spread through galactic diplomacy. The Armada Accords were designed to prevent any single species from achieving military dominance. Humanity has revealed they've possessed such dominance for 3 years without our knowledge. Murmurs of agreement circled the chamber. "The question before us," Tessick continued, "is whether humanity violated the spirit of our agreement, even if they technically complied with the letter of our regulations." Raylan had spent months preparing for this moment. "I propose we examine the facts objectively. Earth submitted their membership application 204 years after they began space exploration. They had maintained their naval structure for 2 centuries before encountering us. The Armada Accords were created by Council species to limit each other. Earth was not part of that agreement when they built their fleets." "But they agreed to those terms when they joined," Driss countered, though his tone lacked its former hostility. "They agreed to register their military fleet," Raylan corrected. "Which they did, First Fleet, 200 vessels, fully documented. They never claimed it was their only fleet. We assumed it was. Our failure of due diligence doesn't constitute their deception." Akoy raised her hand, requesting permission to speak. The chamber fell silent. "Earth understands the Council's concerns," she began. "We recognize that our naval strength creates an imbalance. However, we'd like to provide context." She activated a holographic display showing Earth's history. Images flowed past, depicting conflicts, disasters, and near-extinction events. Humanity spent 50,000 years believing we were alone in the universe. We fought amongst ourselves constantly. Wars that killed millions. Weapons that could sterilize our own planet. We nearly destroyed ourselves 3 separate times. The images shifted to show early space colonies, fragile habitats clinging to hostile worlds. When we finally achieved space travel, we carried our conflicts with us. Colonial wars, resource disputes, terrorism in environments where a single breach means thousands die. We learned the hard way that survival in space requires constant vigilance. More images appeared, showing alien ruins on distant worlds. Then we found evidence of extinct civilizations, dozens of them, species that achieved space travel and then vanished. We don't know what destroyed them: warfare, disease, unknown threats, but we learned that the galaxy is dangerous in ways we couldn't predict. The display showed construction of massive shipyards orbiting Earth, Luna, and Mars. So we built our navy, not to conquer, not to threaten, but to ensure that whatever destroyed those other civilizations wouldn't destroy us. We built redundancy into everything. multiple fleets with overlapping capabilities so that losing one wouldn't cripple our defense. We built for survival. Akoi paused, letting the information settle. Then we met you, the Council. 47 species living in peace, protected by the Armada Accords. It was everything we'd hoped to find. But we also knew our naval strength would terrify you if revealed immediately. So we complied with your regulations, registered First Fleet, and waited to prove we could be trusted. Did we pass the test? Hallam asked quietly. When the Dominion threatened Council worlds, we deployed our full strength to defend populations that weren't our own, Akoi replied. We could have stayed neutral, protected only human colonies. We didn't. We intervened because it was right. Does that answer your question? Silence stretched through the chamber. Finally, Driss stood. I owe the humans an apology, he said, his voice carrying clearly. I called them deceptive. I questioned their trustworthiness. I was wrong. They defended Talos Colony. They defended my people. They asked nothing in return except the opportunity to serve alongside us. Other counselors began standing, adding their voices. Species that had lost colonies to the Dominion expressed gratitude. Representatives whose worlds had been protected by human fleets acknowledged the debt. But Tessic raised a cautious appendage. Gratitude is appropriate, but we must still address the practical reality. Humanity possesses military strength far beyond any other species. This creates an imbalance that could destabilize our entire alliance. What do you propose? Akoi asked. Limits, Tessic suggested. Perhaps humanity could agree to cap their naval strength at current levels, or reduce fleet sizes gradually to achieve parity with Council species. Raylan saw Akoi's expression harden almost imperceptibly. No, she said simply. The word hung in the air like a challenge. Earth will not dismantle the defenses we spent 2 centuries building, Akoi continued. Not for paperwork compliance, not to make others comfortable. Our Navy exists to protect humanity and our allies. Reducing our strength doesn't serve that purpose. Then what prevents you from conquering us? Tessic demanded, finally voicing the fear underlying all the debates. Akoi met his gaze steadily. The same thing that's prevented us for 3 years. The same thing that made us defend Talos Colony. Our values, our principles, our desire for partnership rather than dominance. Values can change, Tessic pressed. So can circumstances, Akoi replied. If Earth wanted to conquer the Council, we could have done it 3 years ago. We could have done it last month while our fleets were already deployed. We didn't. We won't, because that's not who we are. Admiral Hayes stood beside Akoi. I've commanded fleets for 30 years. I've trained for every possible combat scenario. Invasion, conquest, occupation. You want to know the truth? Those scenarios bore me. They're morally repugnant and strategically stupid. Why would we waste resources conquering species that could be our partners? Partners, Raylan repeated thoughtfully. Not subjects, not vassals, partners. Exactly, Akoi confirmed. Earth wants what we've always wanted: peace, trade, scientific exchange, mutual defense. The Council offers all of that. Why would we destroy it? The debate continued for hours, but the tone had shifted. Species gradually accepted that humanity's strength wasn't going anywhere, but also that humanity had proven their intentions through actions. The final vote created a new category within the Armada Accords: special status powers. Species whose military capabilities exceeded standard limits, but who had demonstrated commitment to Council values, could maintain their existing forces under enhanced oversight and cooperation requirements. Earth became the first species granted this designation. The vote wasn't unanimous. 8 species abstained, unable to fully trust but unwilling to oppose. But 39 species voted in favor, acknowledging that humanity had earned their place. As the session concluded, Raylan approached Akoi privately. You could have demanded more, he observed. The Council was terrified. You could have extracted significant concessions. Ruling through fear creates enemies, Akoi replied. We'd prefer friends. And the 4 fleets you kept in reserve during Talus, the ones that made the Dominion realize they faced only partial human strength. Akoi smiled. What about them? They sent a message to potential enemies, but they also sent a message to the Council that humanity is always prepared, always capable of more than we've seen. Is that a problem? Raylan considered carefully. No, I think it's reassuring, actually. Knowing that our strongest ally hasn't shown their full capabilities means we're safer than we realized. Clever, Akoi acknowledged. You understand strategic thinking. I'm learning from the best, Raylan replied. Then quieter, how many more fleets does Earth actually have? Ambassador Akoi's expression revealed nothing. 11 fleets, exactly as documented, everything verified and registered. Of course, Raylan said, not believing her for a second. As he watched her leave, Raylan reflected on the elegant trap humanity had created. They'd revealed enough strength to ensure nobody would attack them, but they'd maintained enough uncertainty that nobody could accurately assess their full capabilities. The question, what else are they hiding, would haunt potential enemies forever, providing deterrence without requiring additional demonstrations of force. Brilliant strategy, terrifying implications, and absolutely reassuring to anyone wise enough to be humanity's friend, rather than their enemy. Admiral Hayes floated in the observation deck of the UNS Defiance, watching construction drones swarm around the skeletal framework of a new vessel. The shipyard orbited Luna, one of 3 major construction facilities in the Sol system. Dozens of ships in various stages of completion hung in the vacuum, their hulls gleaming under work lights. Admiral Chen drifted up beside him, mag boots clicking softly against the deck. Thinking about the council session. Thinking about what we didn't tell them, Hayes replied. Chen smiled, that we're building 12 more fleets. Among other things. They watched the construction in comfortable silence. The new vessels took shape slowly. Each one incorporating lessons learned from the Talus colony engagement. Enhanced quantum communication nodes, improved electronic warfare suites, more efficient power distribution systems. How long until the new fleets are operational? Hayes asked. 18th through 22nd fleets should be ready within 3 years, Chen replied. Full combat capability across 6,000 additional vessels. That brings our total strength to around 10,000 ships. And the Council thinks 11 fleets is impressive, Hayes chuckled. They'd have collective heart failure if they knew. Should we tell them? Eventually, Hayes considered. When they're ready. Right now, they're still adjusting to the idea that we have 4,000 vessels. Let them get comfortable with that reality before we introduce new information. Chen pulled up a holographic display showing deployment statistics. 1st through 11th fleets are performing beautifully. The integration with Council forces is proceeding smoothly. Several species have requested our help modernizing their fleet coordination systems. Which ones? The Halorans, surprisingly. Driss personally requested advisors. Also the Torth, the Benali, and the Kresh. They're all impressed by our tactical synchronization and want to implement similar systems. Hayes nodded approvingly. That's smart. Help them improve their own capabilities. Makes us partners rather than just protectors. There's been an interesting development, Chen continued. The Dominion sent diplomatic overtures. They want to establish trade relations. Already, it's only been 6 months. Apparently Vorath got replaced. New Supreme Commander named Tethys. She's pragmatic, focused on rebuilding rather than revenge. Her message emphasized mutual benefit and peaceful coexistence. Hayes considered this, your assessment. Genuine, probably. They got humiliated at Talus. Their military leadership understands they can't challenge us, Better to profit through trade than bleed through warfare. Recommend we accept. With conditions, Chen suggested. Trade routes monitored by joint patrols. Technology exchange limited to civilian applications. Regular diplomatic contact to prevent misunderstandings. Draw up a proposal. Run it past Akoi before submitting to the council. They returned their attention to the construction yards. New vessels took shape in assembly bays designed to produce 300 ships per year. At current rates, Earth would have 23 fully operational fleets within a decade. Do you think the council suspects? Chen asked. Raylan does, Hayes said confidently. He's too smart not to notice the inconsistencies, but he's also smart enough to understand why we're not advertising our full strength. Think he'll tell the others? I think he'll keep his suspicions private and watch carefully. Raylan understands strategic value of uncertainty. Chen's communicator chimed. He checked the message and smiled. Speaking of Raylan, he's requesting a meeting with you and Akoi. Says it's important but not urgent. Schedule it for tomorrow. I'm curious what he wants. The meeting took place in a neutral conference room aboard Meridian 7. Raylan arrived precisely on time, carrying data tablets and wearing an expression that Hayes had learned to recognize as diplomatic curiosity. Thank you for meeting with me, Raylan began, settling into his chair with the careful movements of his species. I have a proposal that may interest Earth. Akoi gestured for him to continue. Several council species have expressed interest in joint military exercises with human forces. Not just training, but actual coordinated operations. Pirate suppression, border patrols, disaster response. Activities that build cooperation and trust. We already conduct some joint operations, Akoi noted. Limited ones, Raylan agreed. I'm proposing something more substantial, a permanent joint task force. Human vessels integrated with ships from multiple council species, shared command structure, regular rotations. Hayes leaned forward, interested. What's the strategic objective? Integration, Raylan said simply. Right now, humanity operates alongside the council but somewhat separately. Your fleets respond to threats, coordinate with our forces, but maintain distinct command hierarchies. I propose we blur those boundaries. Why? Akoi asked directly. Raylan's expression became serious. Because fear and gratitude are temporary emotions. They'll fade over time. What remains is habit, familiarity, and institutional connections. If human crews serve alongside council crews regularly, if our tactical officers train together, if our children grow up seeing each other as natural allies, then the relationship becomes permanent. You're thinking long-term, Hayes observed. I'm thinking generationally, Raylan corrected. In 50 years, when officers who fought at Talus have retired, will our alliance still hold? Or will new generations question why we grant humanity special privileges? Integrated operations create institutional bonds that survive personnel changes. Akoi exchanged glances with Hayes. The proposal had merit. Integration would provide Earth with better intelligence about council capabilities, create diplomatic leverage through personal relationships, and establish human influence within council military structures. What would this joint task force do? Akoi asked. Everything except direct combat operations, Raylan suggested. Anti-piracy patrols, trade route security, scientific survey missions, humanitarian relief, activities that demonstrate shared purpose without risking political complications if operations go wrong. Who commands it? Rotating command, 3-year terms. First commander should be human to establish credibility. Subsequent commanders from council species. Hayes considered the logistics. We'd need to assign vessels permanently, probably 2 or 3 ships from Second Fleet, since their mission profile already includes cooperative defense. The council would match your contribution, Raylan assured. 6 species have already committed vessels if humanity agrees. Akoi made a decision. We'll agree in principle. Details need to be negotiated, but Earth supports the concept. Raylan's posture relaxed slightly. Excellent. I'll begin drafting formal proposals. As he prepared to leave, Hayes stopped him. Can I ask you something off the record? Of course. You suspect Earth has more military assets than we've revealed, don't you? Raylan's expression became carefully neutral. I suspect many things, Admiral. I suspect Earth has contingency plans for scenarios the Council hasn't imagined. I suspect your shipyards produce more vessels than required for maintenance and replacement. I suspect humanity thinks in longer timeframes than most species. And does that concern you? No, Raylan said honestly, because I also suspect that Earth's interests align with Council's survival. Whatever assets you're hiding, whatever plans you're developing, they're probably designed to protect rather than threaten. Am I wrong? No, Hayes admitted, you're not wrong. Then I don't need to know the details. I just need to ensure that when humanity's hidden assets eventually become visible, the Council sees them as reinforcements rather than threats. After Raylan left, Akoi turned to Hayes. He's dangerously perceptive. He's also right, Hayes replied. Integration serves our interests. The more enmeshed we become with Council species, the more stable the entire alliance becomes. Should we tell him about the new fleets? Not yet. Let the Joint Task Force establish itself first. Prove that cooperation works. Then, in a few years, we can reveal that Earth has expanded its naval strength to meet growing security challenges. By then, it'll feel like a natural development rather than a deception. Akoi smiled. You're thinking like Raylan now, generationally. Humanity survived 50,000 years by planning ahead, Hayes said. No reason to stop now. Back in the observation deck of the Defiance, Hayes watched construction continue on vessels that wouldn't be revealed for years. The Council thought humanity possessed 11 fleets. Soon they'd learn about the Joint Task Force, see human crews working seamlessly with their own forces, and become comfortable with humanity's role as protector and partner. And someday, when the time was right, they'd discover that 11 fleets had become 23. By then, it wouldn't matter. The relationships would be established, the trust earned, the integration complete. Chen joined him again, following his gaze to the construction yards. Think we're doing the right thing, keeping them in the dark. I think we're doing the necessary thing, Hayes replied. The galaxy needs humanity strong enough to defend it, but it also needs to trust us. Those two requirements sometimes conflict. We're managing that conflict the best way we know how. By being strong enough to terrify them and gentle enough to earn their trust. Exactly. They watched the new vessels take shape, silent guardians being built for threats that hadn't emerged yet. Humanity had learned long ago that survival required preparation, that peace required strength, and that trust required time. The Council would learn these lessons too, eventually. In the meantime, Earth would keep building, keep planning, and keep protecting. One fleet had been enough to terrify the Dominion. 11 fleets had been enough to shock the Council. 23 fleets would be enough to ensure that no threat ever endangered the galaxy again. And nobody needed to know about the 30-fleet target until the time was right. Some secrets, Hayes reflected, were worth keeping.